That evening the sky was low and hung over. As with a secret it badly could not keep to itself. Dark clouds were gathered over this quiet village called Ntoaso, with its shadows dancing across the huts. Nobody paid attention as one quiet man slipped out of his house, his feet padding silently along the narrow streets. His name was Adamu, and tonight, his heart weighed heavier than the darkest of those clouds above. For months now, whispers had followed him wherever he went. They came from behind the stalls at the market, from the corners around the well, and from the mouths of men who did not meet his eyes when they spoke. It was always the same. Have you heard? Adamu's wife, Nina. She's not loyal. The first of such words he had dismissed with a wave of his hand. How could he side with them when she was all he had passionately loved? But rumors have sharp teeth, and soon they started tearing his soul. She was breathtakingly beautiful. No man could deny that. Her laughter was a chirping song of birds at dawn. Her smile shone as a beacon capable of melting the coldest of hearts. Still, it was not just Adamu that noticed that. It was said that Nina's beauty had turned her head, leading her into the arms of other men who were not her husband. Adamu had said nothing despite the warnings. When the time was right, he would confront Nina, and not a moment sooner. Doubts clashed in his mind. Perhaps it was a lie, he thought. From the jealous tongue comes the birth of such rumors. Then that night, all changed. That evening, Adamu returned home earlier than usual. The air was thick with heat, the sort of heat from which walking becomes labor. He pushed open the door to his house and saw Nina sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to him. She hummed a soft tune, but something about this scene felt wrong. He couldn't place it, but it bothered his gut. "Nina," he said, his voice low, "I've been hearing things." She turned to face him then, and her smile was wide and innocently appealing. "Oh? What have you been hearing, my husband?" Adamu swallowed the lump in his throat. "They say you have been with other men, behind my back. Is it true?" For one brief moment her smile faltered, but it was such that Adamu almost thought he had merely imagined it. Nina stood, walking to him, her hands resting on his shoulders. "You listen too much to the people of this village, Adamu. They talk because they have nothing better to do. But you and I know the truth. I am yours. Don't let their words poison your heart." Her voice was sweet, but something in her eyes felt distant, not quite there with him. Adamu wanted to believe her, wanted to take her words and hold them close. But that night, as Nina slept beside him, he could not find his peace. The rumors were too loud now, echoing in his head, some kind of haunting song. Days became weeks, and the whispers only grew louder. He observed the way the other men gazed at him, their eyes wandering away as he went by. It was as if they knew something he didn't, as if they shared a secret that had been stolen from him. And still, Nina denied it all. But one evening as Adamu came back home, he saw that last shred of his doubt go up in fragments. He had worked over at the farm all day, having labored in the fields with heavy hands. The sun had already gone down when he found his way to their hut. And that's when he saw it. Nina stood at the edge of the village, talking with a man in the shadows. She was too far away for him to hear their words, but he saw the way she touched the man's arm, the way she laughed softly, a sound meant only for him. Adamu froze. It was as if the earth opened up beneath his feet. He would have crossed over, blustering for explanations, but something held him back. Instead, he stood and watched as Nina turned and disappeared into the darkness with the stranger. That night, Adamu did not sleep. His mind teemed full of betrayal and anger. He had given Nina his heart, and she had shattered it without a second thought. He had warned her, given her an opportunity to change. But now something must be done. It was then that the thought came to him. He would not approach Nina in anger. No, his revenge would be far more calculated. He would make sure that any man who dared to touch her knew what the price for betrayal was. The next morning, Adamu left the village before the break of dawn. He walked further into the forest to the shrine of Nana Kujo, the village's feared native priest, whose powers were said to be unparalleled by any other man. His ability to speak with spirits from beyond the grave and to command men's souls to do his will. It was a long, wavy path with dense trees and great jagged boulders. But he remained steady. His mind's eye was fixed on one thing alone, one thing only, to make Nina pay for what she had done. And when at last he reached the shrine itself, the air was heavy with incense and with the smoke of burning herbs, while skulls and charms swung from the trees, and from far off came the muffled beating of drums. Nana Kudjo sat cross-legged in the middle of the clearing, his eyes closed to the world in deep concentration. "I know why you have come, Adamu," the priest spoke without opening his eyes. Adamu took another step forward, his heart pounding within him. "Then you know what I want." Nana Kudjo opened his eyes, and for a moment, time stood still. "You are after revenge, not through violence. You want her to suffer under the burden of her shame." Adamu nodded. "Yes, I want every man that lays his eyes on her to know what she has done. I want them to fear touching her." The priest smiled, a dark, twisted smile. "Then you shall have what you seek. But be warned, Adamu. The path you walk is dangerous. Once the curse is cast, it cannot be undone." "I don't care," Adamu said through gritted teeth. "Do it." Nana Kudjo signaled for Adamu to come closer. He handed him a small calabash filled with some weird, thick liquid. "Pour this on her clothes tonight while she sleeps. From that moment on, her breasts will speak to any man who sees her nakedness. They will warn him, and he will flee in terror. But Nina will never hear the voice. Only the men will." Adamu took the vial and nodded. "Thank you, Nana Kudjo." The priest's voice echoed in his ears as he turned to leave. "Remember, Adamu, some curses are heavier than others. Make sure you are ready to carry this one." By the time Adamu got back to the village, the sun was already setting. He entered his house in silence and watched as Nina prepared for bed. Her movements were as grace-like as usual, yet they now only served to fill him with bitterness. In the night, as she slept, Adamu took up the calabash and sprinkled its contents on her clothes, as Nana Kudjo had dictated. The liquid evaporated into the fabric, leaving no trace. But he knew the curse had taken hold. Days passed, and Nina went about her ways. She continued to sneak off in the dead of night, meeting strange men and keeping secrets that were her own. Yet the spell was now in full motion and work, and wove its evil charm. The first man she tried to love was met with a passion, but as soon as he saw her naked breasts, he heard a voice booming from her breasts, icy and awful. "Do not touch what does not belong to you. She is a wife, and her betrayal will be your destruction." The man's face whitened, and he ran out of the room mute. Nina was left standing there, feeling bewildered and degraded. She had done nothing out of the ordinary, yet the man had fled as if she was some sort of monster. It happened again, and again. Every man she drew into her web ran the instant they saw her nakedness. The voice was like thunder, rumbling in their bones. "Do not touch her. She belongs to another." Soon, strange new rumors flew around the village. Men spoke about the voice they had heard, and the voice warning them away from Nina. Yet she never could know what was wrong with her. As these humiliations were repeated endlessly, Nina began to suspect that something was terribly wrong. A previously confident woman now found herself alone. Her shame grew heavier with each passing day. Broken and desperate at last, Nina went back to Adamu. She fell to her knees before him in the torrent of her tears. "Adamu, my husband," she cried. "I don't know what's happening. Every man runs from me as if I am cursed. I beg you, please forgive me. I have wronged you, but I am ready to change. Let me come back to you." Adamu looked down at her, his heart cold and unmoved. "Nina," he whispered, "I warned you. I gave you chances to change, but you flouted them. Now the curse is upon you, and there is nothing I can do to undo it. Our marriage is over. You must live with the consequences of your actions." Nina's eyes widened in horror. "But Adamu, I thought you would forgive me." Adamu just shook his head. "Some things cannot be forgiven. I will not take you back." And with that, Adamu turned and walked away, leaving Nina hopeless. News spread quickly like wildfire, and within a few days everyone knew that Adamu had left his wife. As if that wasn't enough, the circumstances that led to their separation was also made known. Nina became the talk of the village. After facing shame and disgrace, she decided to leave the village and never return as she believed a fresh start would help her. However, the curse of her breast speaking followed her everywhere she went.